Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's FSG Smart Buildings webinar. I am Tim Hansen, FSG Smart Buildings Marketing and Sales Coordinator, and I will serve as the moderator for this presentation. I'm joined by our two presenters, FSG Smart Buildings Vice President for Sales and Marketing, Thomas Pickral, and Business Development Executive, Mike Amato. We ask if you have any questions during this webinar, please submit them in the Q&A. We will be answering those questions at the end of the presentation. Also, if you think of any questions later on after this webinar, please reach out to me and I will be happy to answer them. A recorded version of this webinar will be made available and will be sent out to you and everyone else at FSG after the conclusion of this presentation. So let's get started. Thomas and Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Thomas Pickral. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing with FSG Smart Buildings. Some of you know me, many of you don't. Today, our topic is Lighting Controls 101 and how FSG's Smart Buildings division can make everybody more money by offering more technology to our customers. So quick background on the presenters. Michael Amato is one of my team members. He's a business development executive recently coming to us from another FSG branch in the Northeast. Michael has a tremendous amount of experience around controls and lighting controls in particular, has been in this area of the industry for quite a long time. And I've been personally in lighting controls for the last 25 years. So between Michael and I, many decades of experience, and we're here to be an internal resource for you guys. So you've got internal experts on your team, anything lighting and lighting controls related. So who are the Smart Buildings Group? Some of you have worked with us before and many of you haven't. How do we work together is a question that has a lot of answers, right? We're a flexible organization, but basically we are like the national accounts branch of controls within FSG. And what that means is we have a team of experts here in Round Rock, Texas, and that team has dedicated knowledge around building automation and control systems. So that's lighting controls, heating and air conditioning controls, metering, IoT applications, all different kinds of things. And we go out and pursue national accounts customers directly, but we also support local FSG branches all over the country. So we're involved in projects with FSG branches on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and the Midwest. So we help put the solution together, and so we're part of that sales process and design process on the front end. We also provide technology and service on the back end as part of our offering. So we can work with FSG branches in a variety of ways for lighting controls applications. What kind of customers do we do this work for? I mean, you guys are all FSG employees. You know the kinds of customers that we do business for and with, and we operate at the highest levels, guys. We are world-class experts in lighting and lighting controls, and we provide these solutions to world-class companies. Whose products do we sell? Pretty much anybody's. We are all FSG, right? And FSG is one of the biggest lighting distributors in the country. It's one of the biggest lighting controls distributors in the country, and one of the biggest contractors in the country. And so we have established relationships with all of the major lighting controls vendors, and we do a lot of work with these folks. In fact, many of these companies actually bring jobs to us to execute sometimes because we're so much better at the execution side than most other companies. So Osram is on this list, for example. We'll talk a little bit more after Michael gets into the details on lighting control strategies about our new partnership with Osram, which we announced at Light Fair, which is really exciting. But really, any kind of controls project, don't think we're limited in scope to one particular system or another. A hallmark of FSG is being hardware agnostic and supplying the devices and products that best suit the customer's needs. And here at Smart Buildings, we take the exact same approach. So we work with a lot of systems. We also provide service on a lot of systems. So this is something that also comes up is I've got a customer that has a lighting control system and they want to make a change or an adjustment to the way that it works. They want to expand it. all of those kinds of projects are right in our wheelhouse. I'm going to hand off to Michael Amato here to talk a little bit more specifically about the kinds of lighting controls that we offer. Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. So Thomas had just illustrated how a lot of these vendors are bringing projects to us, but FSG being in the lighting and lighting controls world for as many decades as we have, we often are asked to recommend solutions or specify those solutions for our customers, be it a national account, be it a large CNI, be it an ESCO, be it what it may. We are asked to specify these systems, and to specify these systems properly, we identify what it is our customers are looking to do, and then we can apply one of a variety of different control methodologies that are native to the lighting controls world. I like to discuss lighting controls in three primary methodologies. And these are methods that you are familiar with, probably tangentially, or at least loosely familiar with. And if we go over these three, you'll see how familiar these things might be to you. And if they're not, this will be an introduction to them, and you can obviously follow up with us to get more details, or in future webinars, we may take deeper dives. So wired at the circuit or zone, this type of method is typically something that you would find a panel-based controller or an area-based controller, where the wires come from that panel or from that area controller out to the different fixtures and sensors throughout the space. It is a very traditional lighting control system, been around for many decades. The second methodology would be wireless at the zone. This is where you have that area controller, however, it is providing power to the fixtures, but could be wirelessly communicating to a wall station for manual overrides, occupancy sensors, or daylight sensors that could be strategically placed in that space to help provide additional input and provide additional savings to that space, also to achieve code compliance. So that's wireless at the zone. The next methodology is the wireless at the fixture. Now, this is when you're embedding those controls integrated into each luminaire. It really provides the most granularity. And what I mean by granularity, individually fixture addressable controls. Every fixture can do its own job. And that gives us tons of flexibility when we're scaling a system, or maybe even reprogramming a system in the future when they repurpose the space. That's your wireless at the fixture. It also provides the most amount of savings. Emerging on its, there's another category emerging on its own, and that's power over Ethernet and low voltage fixtures. These are really starting to gain, in the last couple of years, really starting to gain traction in the industry. And it's a combination of network wiring, providing low voltage power to the fixtures, as well as collecting data and bringing that data all back to a computer network. Low voltage systems are providing DC voltage at low voltage to the fixtures, and it could be a hybrid of maybe the controls and the data is coming over the Ethernet lines, those network cables, or they could be coming back wirelessly. But the fixtures and the controls are all being powered from DC low voltage.
Hey, Michael, I'm going to provide a quick analogy that I heard from Adrian Vera in our national accounts office when I was explaining this to a customer last week with him. He said the best way to think about these four different options is the first two are like a zone defense. You're setting the lights up in a group and they're all reacting together. The second two, the wireless at the fixture and the power over Ethernet, are like a man-to-man defense. You can set up,
I like the analogy,
each individual light to do its own thing. So it's a good way to kind of group the two together into zones or man-to-man.
Very nice. Okay. Our next slide, we're going to go into, oftentimes we're asked when we're assessing the controls options for our customers, you're very commonly asked, hey, what are the good, better, and best solutions here? Can you provide me some options? And it's often not a very black and white kind of answer to a question like this, because it is subject to the customer's needs. What are they looking to do with the space? How are they looking to control the space? What kind of additional benefits can these lighting controls provide to them outside of energy savings? So the good, better, best is quite subjective to an understanding of the scope of work and the bigger picture of how they operate their facility. That said, we laid out kind of a matrix here on what characteristics are good, better, and best for the three primary types of lighting control categories. And as you can see, what's best in one category is not best in another. So for example, although man-on-man defense, right, the luminaire level controls has the most flexibility and is the most scalable of the systems, but it does require integrated controls into every single fixture. So the equipment cost could be a little higher because there's more widgets. So it's good in the flexibility. I mean, it's best in the flexibility and scalability, but you know, it's only good in the equipment cost area. So that's kind of where how things kind of flow, ebb and flow back and forth in the good, better, best categories. So this can be a good resource for you, this slide. I hope you guys take this with you and really study it and use it to your advantage.
And we'll provide a copy of this as a part of the output. So don't worry about writing all this down. We'll send a copy out to everybody that was registered.
Absolutely. And on the how, the next slide kind of really does go into how lighting controls work. So let's break this down. Fundamentally, what are the basics? How do lighting controls actually work? So lighting control systems are going to pull in all sorts of input from the environment, you know, from those sensors. And it could be a push button on a wall, or it could be daylight, you know, penetrating through the windows, or it could be motion, you know, somebody walking into the space. Those are all external environmental stimuli. That stimulus is then collected and sent to the controller. It is the controller that then actually takes action and tells the fixture what to do. Oftentimes, the controller can sometimes be embedded into the occupancy sensor. You may see a combo unit. It is a wired occupancy sensor. It has the control circuits built into the occupancy sensor. Or on a wall station, the control circuits may be built into the wall station. So that would be a switch and a controller in one, or a sensor and a controller in one. But essentially, those are two different components, really just combined into the same housing. But this is really how the architecture of a lighting control system works and interfaces with the luminaires. It's all about giving you the right amount of light where you need it, when you need it. So we talked about the methods of lighting control. We could talk a little bit here about the categories. Now, we've talked about, I think we just touched base on things like standalone occupancy sensors and stuff like that. That is on its own standalone category. In the more advanced categories of lighting controls, we do have the network lighting control systems. And these are where everything communicates with each other. And these network systems are computer-based. So the wall stations, the sensors, the luminaires themselves, they all report back to a central server and say, this is what's going on with all of the nodes. They call them nodes because it is a computer system. These are what's happening with all the nodes in the system, and kind of provides you a lot of reporting. What's the energy consumption? What's the health status? You know, what areas are currently occupied? What areas are not? All that information comes back because it is networked together. And one of the big advantages of a network lighting control system is that we can actually integrate it with other systems in the building. Take the occupancy sensors and then use that occupancy data and then connect it to your HVAC system. It's unoccupied. I'm not going to, you know, heat or cool or condition that space. These are things that can happen with a network lighting control system that can't happen with others. The methods that fall into there are the wireless and luminaire level stuff. And our next category is the Internet of Things. This kind of takes network lighting controls and puts it on steroids. And a lot of people are confused by the term Internet of Things. What is Internet of Things exactly? What does that mean? It's a buzzword. It's a lot of heavy marketing around that term, Internet of Things. I broke it down into it really simply in that first statement. It's the interconnectivity, the interconnection of devices embedded in everyday objects, enabling them to send and receive data. That's all really Internet of Things is. Our watches, our phones, Some people have smart door locks, smart lighting in their houses, smart switches. These are all reporting back. Our Google Homes, our Alexas, they're all just sending and receiving data. And then different people can use that data in different ways. That's all Internet of Things really is. So when you take network lighting controls and you bring it to an IoT-based system, you now are mining the data that's being collected, and you're using it for all sorts of applications. You have things like what I just described was demand control ventilation. You can use it in your HVAC system to heat and condition places based on occupancy. When you get that information to the cloud, you can do all sorts of analytics to track, assets in real time, or help you find your way through a shopping mall or through a hospital. So all of that data can be mined and used in a variety of different ways. In our next slide, we're going to talk about the sequence of operations. This is critical to project execution. With our sequence of operations, it really sets the stage for what the customer is expecting to get out of this installed and programmed lighting control system. Without this document, expectations are going to be verbal, or they are going to be passed along hearsay, or could be lost in translation through unofficial emails. The sequence of operations really lays it down. These are the different spaces. These are the different set points. These are the expectations of the lighting control system for those spaces. It's a great contractual document that should be part of everyone's sales process.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's important to point out this is the kind of thing we will help develop, right? And so when it comes to defining how a lighting control system works, that's where the expertise of FSG Smart Buildings comes in, and we will help you sit down with the customer and uncover what their needs are for the way the lighting control system performs, and actually sit down and lay out this sequence of operations as part of the design process, and as part of the project, right? And so we will do that as part of a project or as part of a professional service to help the customer establish a specification that meets their needs.
Absolutely, Thomas. It is part of the pre-sale process. You want this to be done up front, agreed to by the customer before anything is delivered, or so that they have expectations up front, and there's no confusion on the back end during project implementation. So how all this wraps up? How does this benefit the customer? Let's talk about the end goal here is to conserve them energy. And when you layer on all of these different energy conservation measures that happen with an advanced lighting control system, you can achieve some significant savings for their lighting system. So take this example that I have on the screen here. This is an actual energy report from a school district where we did a lighting control project with them with an LED retrofit. The LEDs were responsible for 50% of the energy savings right off the top. And you can see that purple section really does bring it down halfway. Now, to really give them the most bang for their buck and provide the most energy savings possible, we layered on all of these different energy conservation measures in the methods of task tuning, providing the right light for the right spaces, daylight harvesting, capturing that sunlight coming through the window and adjusting the lights properly, and occupancy sensing in making sure the lights are only on where they're needed. When you layer all that on top, we provided an additional 64% savings from the new LEDs. So in total, we gave you an 82% savings for this project, and this is conservative. With lighting controls, you can expect to save somewhere between 45 and upwards of 75, maybe even 80% over the LED, depending on your space type. Warehouses and distribution centers are on the higher end of that, and then of course there are some facilities that are on the lower end of that spectrum where there's a ton of foot traffic. Retail being probably one of those spaces. That's back in the middle are your schools and your office buildings and your distribution centers. And warehouses are really up high.
Great, thank you, Michael. And if anybody has questions about any of the specific strategies or components that Michael talked about, please let us know. We're always looking for new topics for additional webinars, and we think this topic has a lot more information to be provided. So if you can help us prioritize, we'd appreciate it. So I mentioned earlier in our presentation that we're out there working with a wide variety of manufacturers. And if you went to Light Fair, you might have seen that we've made a big announcement with Osram and FSG Smart Buildings. And this is a strategic partnership between Osram and FSG to provide turnkey installations of Encilium control solutions. So Encilium is a wireless network lighting control solution, and it's one of those sophisticated advanced IoT type platforms that Michael described. And each fixture has a sensor and controller integrated into it. And Osram was finding that their customers were challenged to put a whole system together and get it installed. And so they came to us, and we've worked together on establishing a program that is completely turnkey for customers from beginning to end. We can design, specify, install, program, maintain, and service all of the Osram equipment. We're really excited about it. The best part about it for FSG is we get great pricing on this. It gives us a big advantage over the rest of the marketplace because we're doing this in scale. Instead of working just a single FSG office with Osram, we're working across the company here to really expand the offering in a way that allows us to get the best pricing possible for everybody. And of course, that means more margins and better commission checks. So in the Osram program, just so you get a sense of how detailed this is, we've put together a project plan that has 64 individual steps that are identified within each project. And we, as essentially the way to think of us is the general contractor for a whole lighting controls project. And so we're controlling this plan. We can actually break this out a piece at a time. And so when we're working with local branches and they, for example, have a lighting project they want to add on the controls to, and we're helping with that, we don't want to take the sale away from you. We want to add to it. So our process is not one that we have to control the whole thing like we stood up with the Salisbury program, but we can. Or if you just need us to provide some professional consulting services, right? So we've had some branches reach out to us and say, hey, my customer is interested in exploring options in power over Ethernet lighting, and it's really new and nobody knows much about it. Can we sit down and help guide them through what the choices are? Yes. Or we've had branches come to us and say, I've got a customer that already bought a lighting control system and they're really upset with the way that it's being serviced. It's not programmed right. We need some help there. Can you guys just come out and recommission the system for us? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the important takeaway here is we can do the whole thing or we can do the pieces of it that make sense as part of our business together. We also offer lighting as a service, which is something across FSG, but it really makes sense in the context of lighting controls. So we just wanted to drop a quick reminder in here that this is something that we offer at FSG. And when initiating a new lighting controls project, oftentimes an LED upgrade comes along with it. Sometimes financing will all be bundled together is a compelling solution. And so be thinking about when a customer's going, God, lighting controls are going to really add to my budget. I don't have the capital budget for that. We can help shift those costs into the operating expenses from the capital expenses, which really helps customers get what they want up front. And lighting controls give you a great return on investment. So that's part of that calculation. If you add it to LED, you get a really great return on your investment altogether as part of one project. And so a good way to think about these opportunities is how can I bundle together not just the fixtures, but also the controls and the financing all as part of one service. So a quick recap, just some key points to pull out of the presentation. Smart Buildings is an advisor and a partner, and we work with all of the branches across FSG. Division 91 is really here to help you. We're vendor agnostic, subject matter experts. What that means is we don't care which parts we use or don't. Our approach is service first, just like the rest of FSG, and we have gone out and put the time and effort in to learn all of these systems. that we can. You can use us as a turnkey partner. You can also use us as a subcontractor. So that's important to know. If you just need us to help pick up one part of the project, seems complicated or beyond what you're comfortable with, we're there to help. We pay commissions on projects that are handed over to us. So let's say you've got a controls only project and you go, this sounds like something those smart buildings guys would be interested in. You can get paid for giving that to us, you and the branch. So we offer commissions on controls only projects that you're just going to hand off, and we take care of the whole thing. So important thing to remember is we are all FSG. Our offering, our business is about bringing more value to the whole organization, letting us all make more money. That's really the bottom line in this. So we've got 2 minutes left in our half-hour block here. So I know that Tim had one or two questions that came in. We'll answer a few questions, and then we'll wrap up. Tim, what was the first question that came in? So the first question that came in was, how is any of this different than the digital ceiling? And the answer is, it's all the same thing. So if you guys have heard digital ceiling out there, and we talk about these fancy IoT and network lighting controls, understand that there's lots of different ways for us to approach that. The next question is, what about utility rebates? The answer to that is, we absolutely work on utility rebate administration as a part of these controls projects. That's a service that we offer within Division 91. And so as part of our turnkey solution, we will do that rebate application administration as part of the whole process. Or we can work with you on that. So in markets, particularly the Northeast and California, where there are some incentives right now to install lighting controls, we absolutely know about all of those. We absolutely want to take advantage of them, and they can make a huge difference in the overall cost of the project. Good example on this is Mike Gilbert, who's down here in Division 91 in Round Rock, had a customer in Minnesota with a lighting controls project. They were looking to implement, and they looked at it and said, "Hey, we want to do controls only, and then maybe we'll think about LED lighting." And it turned out, when you looked at the actual rebates that were applicable, for like 20% more money, they could get a whole new LED retrofit when they thought all they could get was controls. So we will help with that. We'll put all that together, and it'll help explain to the customer what the return is. Looks like we got another question. How do I get pricing from the Smart Buildings team? Great question. The answer is, reach out to us. So we've got several business development folks on our team. A lot of people know Mike Gilbert, who's been around FSG for more than 25 years. We've got Michael Amato on the team, Eric Fiedler. You can reach out to me or to our Smart Buildings marketing team. So we'll be sure to include contact information for all of the appropriate folks. And coming up on your screen right now is a list of those contacts I mentioned and their FSG email addresses, plus some more folks on there in case you've got additional questions. It looks like we are out of time now. I appreciate everyone joining us. Thank you so much for taking a half hour out of your day to learn a little bit more about how we can all make money together. Again, Tim is going to follow up with everybody that attended and provide a link to a recorded version of this in case you had to walk away, or you've got some colleagues that may be interested and you want to share this with, and a PDF copy of the slide deck, so you've got that information as well. And don't hesitate to reach out if you've got customers, questions, issues, problems, anything related to lighting controls. We are here to help. Thank you again, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Tim, for hosting this. Thank you, Michael, for participating as one of our presenters. And everybody have a great afternoon. Let's go make some money.
Thank you, everybody.